Mr. X in the house. There we go. Attacking. 7 principles. First principle. Always create a threat. Look how this guy does that. White already centralized the knight. The bishop is on the great diagonal. The rook is into the game. And look at black's pieces. Very defensive. Here black played the move bishop to b7. Developing. But this is a crucial mistake already. And see how white finishes this. He brings in the rook to e3. Right? If you're attacking, bring in your pieces. The more, the merrier. So the rook is already threatening to go to g3, to h3. Here, black developed the knight, and here, bishop h7 would already be winning. Here, white saw this bishop attacking the g7 square. This rook coming in. This bishop attacking the h7 square. This queen coming in. So it decided to fork the queen to the bishop, but in order to free room for the bishop. And after black took the knight, you give the Greek gift with bishop takes on h7. Black took the bishop, and after queen h5 check, the king goes back. And now if you think that this is a winning move, then you're wrong, because f6 defends everything. You cannot give a checkmate here now. And after rook e1, you can block the e file for the rook, and your king can always escape if the queen comes in here. And remember, you've already sacrificed 2 pieces. So you have to checkmate here. What is the winning move here for white? Another Greek gift! Bishop takes g7. You know, the funny thing is, the best move in this position would have been queen to h4, giving away the queen. So if you take it, then at least it's a checkmate in 10. That's not what black did. And here, black took the bishop. And if you slide in the rook, the king has to come forward. And after rook e1, another threat. So many threats on the board. And after rook g8, there's a checkmate on f3. Secondly, exploit weaknesses. As you can see, white is a bishop down. But it has a passer here. And what's the best move in the position for white here? King to c4. Because the black king is boxed in. It cannot go anywhere. The rook, what if it goes here? Then you go to e7 to threaten check. And if you take back, checkmate. So the rook has to go back here. And then you can, for example, play the rook to e8. The rook can never take, because if you take, this is a checkmate. Instead, black went rook to g8, trying to trade off the rook. So instead we go rook to e7, threatening to put a rook on e8. And we exploit the king being on the back rank. So this rook has to stay here to protect checkmate. This rook cannot go here, because then we give a check and checkmate. Instead, black played the bishop to d8. Now we slide our rook forward, pinning this rook to the king. So black is basically stuck here. Black played bishop to c7, and we bring in our king. Bishop goes back. And for example, if you go here, then we have king d6. If bishop h4, then king e6. And now, believe it or not, black has 5 pawns, a rook and a bishop, but it's in zugzwang. It wants to protect this square, to prevent promotion. If the bishop goes here, we bring in the king to f7. Again, if you take, this is still checkmate. If you take the pawn, this is a stunning checkmate. Principle number 3, concentrate your pieces when attacking. Here white is already better. Black totally underestimated the power of white's pieces. And after the move f4 and b5 trying to attack on the other side of the board, we simply play f5. The bishop has to go back, and here we bring in the queen. We already threatened to bring in the knight. So after the move a5, white played knight to h5, and after g6, there's a check on f6. King to the corner. This is already very weak, so there's ideas of playing queen to h4, but the best move here is bishop to h6. See how concentrated these pieces are. This pawn as well. You cannot take, because there's a checkmate, of course. And this knight is the defender of this pawn. So white is threatening to put the queen over here and giving checkmate after taking the knight. The key defender of black's camp. Another principle, exchange key defenders. So for example, if you play a random move, queen h4 is already winning. If we play another random move, we just simply take the knight, and then there's a checkmate here. That's not what black did, obviously. played the move b4 and we simply ignore it. We don't care about these pawns. We care about everything that's going on here. So queen to h4, threatening to take the knight and give checkmate. Black took the pawn here on e5 and we can take the rook. But why take the rook if we can give a checkmate? We took on f8 and here the best move would have been h5 and after f takes g6, queen takes f8, we take the rook and we threaten to take on h4. So queen h6 is the only move and now we can gobble up the bishop. Principle number 4. Create open files. This is Anand creating open files against Vladimir Kramnik. How to do it? Well, here g6 is a stunning move. Black takes back the pawn and white takes the knight in the center of the board and black takes back. How can we create an open file? Well, we take actually this pawn. If you, for example, would take over here, then we take in between with the check and the king has to take the pawn. Not a good move. So black has to take back the pawn. But how do we open the files? Okay, we already have an open f file, but we need to get a rook in there. But can we create another open file? Yes, with the move h5. And here the best move would have been for black to not open the h file and to play the move g5. And when white is persistent and plays h6 to open up this file, you play the annoying move g6, keeping everything closed. So I think this is a great example on showing how to prevent your opponent from getting open files. Instead, here, black brought in the bishop, which is a crucial mistake, because now we create the open file, and when our bishop is captured, we take it back and see how this file is super open. If you double up the rooks, this is super deadly. So black has to act with bishop to h6, trying to block off the h file, but here the move knight to e4 is very strong. Black played the move bishop to f4, and now this knight threatens to enter the position, but more importantly, it blocks the queen from defending the c4 square, because this is a beautiful and deadly diagonal for white. So after the move bishop to h6, the queen comes in, and if you block a diagonal with the knight, you simply take it, and if the king goes to the corner, the other knight comes in, threatening a check on f7, move your rook here in order to capture the knight when it goes there. But if you don't do that, for example, you play queen to a5, then there's the beautiful smothered mate. Check, 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 and checkmate with a double check. Pretty awesome. Principle number 5, exchange key defenders. We already gave an example of exchanging a key defender as part of concentrating your pieces. What is a great move in this position? Yes, rook takes c6. This knight blocks the c-file, it helps in the defense of the central squares, and white trades them off. Black took back with a pawn, and now the knight comes in again, attacking this square. Here black played the move h5, ignoring white's attack. d4, opening up this diagonal for the queen. That would be devastating. So black played king to b7, and now white brings in the rook. This square is super vulnerable. After rook e8, white brings in the rook. See, it will come in on the b file. Black takes the pawn, and after a check, do you see the winning move for white? A brilliant move where the key defender stood once. We sack our queen with knight to c6. If you take the queen, then this is a checkmate. The queen is attacked, but it's not over yet, because black can also just move the queen after queen to d7. Note that our queen still cannot be taken. So we put our knight in between, knight to e5. Here black made a crucial mistake to attack the knight with the bishop. What black overlooked is that this diagonal now opened up. This knight blocked the defense of this diagonal. So queen e4 is devastating. And after c6, there is another brilliancy in this position. Do you see it? Rook to b8. If you take it with the queen, then you take on d7 with a check. So this is absolutely winning. And if you take back with the rook, then also the queen is hanging. So white won this game by exchanging a key defender and creating a weakness on c6 at the same time. When you're attacking, black wants to trade off your pieces, because the less pieces you have to attack with, the less dangerous your attack will be. So avoid trading off your pieces when you're attacking. And black tried to trade off pieces in this game, because after the move knight to g4, bringing the knight into the attack, black played the move b4. After bishop f3, black decided to offer the queen trade. If you take the queen, black takes back, and this is a better position for black. Black has to pass pawn. Instead, white played the stunning move bishop to d3, blocking the exchange of queens and bring the bishop into the attack. Great move. If you wonder what if you take the pawn, well then queen to g5 is winning, because you pin the bishop to the king, and if you take the bishop you take back with the pawn and you will win the bishop, probably give a checkmate. So black played b3, trying to have counterplay and attack with a b-pawn. So remember, the previous principle was to exchange key defenders, and this principle is to avoid exchanges. That sounds very contradictory, but it's not, because here we take the key defender. Black takes back, he will play rook to c5. If the rook is taken, we take away a key defender, because the knight was protecting the f6 square. Because here we have a check, check, checkmate. So black didn't take our rook, but played king to f8. Then we still come in with the queen. Black moves aside, we take the pawn, and now black exchanges our rooks. We don't take it back, because for example if you would go back, then there's g7 and we will promote at some point. So instead black took our pawn. Now we take the rook. See how concentrated our pieces are. The bishop threatens this pawn. The knight threatens to go here. The queen is in the attack. This pawn is in the attack. So after knight to f6 takes, we take it back, we threaten to give a check here, march up this pawn, and after king to d8 we simply take the bishop, and this went on for a while, but this is clearly winning for white. So don't trade off your queens when you're attacking, remember this. Then, the last principle, principle number 7, is to attack on both sides of the board. Watch a young Hikaru Nakamura show how it's done. In this position, Hikaru played the move b5 on this side of the board, kicking away the knight. And now he switches to the other side of the board, f5. And this knight has to go back. Look at all these on the back row of black. Nakamura improves his bishop to the right diagonal. This is where it needs to be. And after f6, Hikaru tries to bring in his rook. g6, trying to create some room. And after bishop h6, the rook has to move. And now Hikaru brings the knight into the game. What a threat over here. Black has to play c6 to prevent this. Takes, and now Hikaru created an open b file. This pawn is potentially weak, this one as well. Instead he switches back to the other side of the board, takes the g pawn, takes back, and now rook c1, attacking this pawn, tying the knight down to this pawn to defend it. The king comes forward, attacks our bishop, we need to do something about it. Bishop to f4, and now black tries to unwind its horrible position with a knight h to f7, and Hikaru brings in the rook. Black tried to get the rook into the defense, and here Nakamura plays a beautiful move, queen to h5. If you take the queen, then there's a check over here, the pawn has to go in between, we take the pawn, and this is a checkmate. So taking is not an option. The king has to come back, but now we take the pawn on g6. The king tries to escape, and here Hikaru, instead of giving a check on g7, where the king can escape, he switches to the other side of the board with d5, attacking this pawn, creating weaknesses over here, and preventing the queen to escape to this side at some point. Black tries to close down the c-file, but now we switch to the other side of the board. Queen g7 check. The king has to go here, and we have a check with the bishop. And when the bishop comes in between, we have a beautiful move here, winning the queen, knight to f5. If you take the bishop, then we take the queen. And if we go to the last square remaining, then we take this pawn. And if you take the queen, then this is a checkmate. So try to attack on both sides of the board. Then your opponent has to worry about both sides as well.